Welcome to our immunology class. We are going to start by defining the word immunology. Immunology is the study of immunity. Then let's look at immunity. Immunity is defined here in three ways, and I'm going to read through. The first one, immunity is how the body defends itself from invading foreign microorganisms or foreign substances. The microorganisms may be bacteria, parasites, or virus, while foreign substances may be poison, chemicals, or even dust particles. The second one is how the body resists infection, which can be put another way, how the body defends itself from infection. We can then see that immunology is the study of how the body resists infection or how the body defends itself from foreign invasion. The scope of immunology is then wide. We'll look at the body systems which help it defend itself and how these body systems functions. So we may look at organs, tissues, cells, and chemicals that cells produce and how they are used to defend the body system. Let's then go ahead to look at immunity in details. Immunity, we'll start by looking at the types of immunity. We have innate immunity and adaptive immunity. Innate immunity is the immunity you are born with. As you are born, you are already possessing it. You are capable of, the body is capable of defending itself at birth. That is why it's called natural immunity. It is also said to be non-specific because one example of innate immunity is the skin. The skin prevents entry of any substance into the body, and it prevents entry of substance in the same way. It does not select, it's not specific, so that's why it's called non-specific. An adaptive immunity is immunity that's acquired after birth. So after birth, you are exposed to foreign substances, which may include living ones like bacteria or non-living ones like poison. So when you are exposed to them, the body reacts to them and destroy them. So this one is specific because the body actually produces chemical against individual substance or microorganism. So if a bacteria A infects you, the body will produce chemical which destroy only that bacteria A, and not any other bacteria which may live in the body and not affecting you. If bacteria B affects you, then it only produces chemical against that bacteria B and destroys and not the other. Does not destroy any other bacteria. So that's why I say it is specific. In this lesson, we look mainly at innate immunity, and then in the next one, we look at acquired immunity. So let's start by defining innate immunity. First, we say that innate immunity is the first line of defense. What this means, it is the first thing that foreign substances encounter and try to stop them from getting into the body or even destroying them. But should they pass, then they beat another second line of defense, which is normally adaptive immunity. Although some authors or some authority have, because innate immunity is divided into two. They're the physical barrier, like the skin I've said, but should the skin be cut so that anything enters the skin, then they get in the body, and they then get some chemicals and cells which destroy foreign substance non-specifically. This one is also innate immune system. So this one's, to some people, is the second line of defense. So the barrier like the skin becomes the first. The inner cells and their products becomes the second line. Then adaptive immunity becomes third. But for now, let's consider innate immunity as the first line of defense and adaptive immunity as the second line of defense. Then another thing about innate immunity is that it is there at birth. It does not depend on exposure to any antigen. You are born and the body is able to defend itself. So we'll move on and look at classification of innate immunity. Innate immunity is divided broadly into three. We have individual immunity, then we have racial immunity, then we have species immunity. Let us look at each of them a bit into some details. We'll start by individual immunity. Individual immunity is immunity that differ between individuals. Let's take human beings. You may be having a brother or a sister or an uncle. Your immunity is different from that of your brother or sister because your genetic makeup is not the same. So this immunity, which is found in an individual, but vary between individual to individual in the same race. Race is a subspecies or in the same species. But there's a case where two individuals could have the same genetic makeup. These are identical twins, sometimes called homozygous twins. These twins have the same genetic makeup, so their immunity may be the same. But normally, different individuals have different immune capabilities. Then we move to racial immunity. We've said a race is a subspecies. In human beings, subspecies are referred to as race. So these are small groups within a species. So a group may be immune to a particular microorganism or substance, while another race is not. So this is immunity uniform among one group, but differ from that of another group. For example, particular groups of people have sickle cell anemia. These people are resistant to Plasmodium falciparum, which causes malaria. So these people are resistant to malaria, but all other people are not. That's why we say this is immunity for a particular subgroup within a species known as a race or subspecies. Then we move on to species immunity. This is an immunity within a given species. So a species is resistant to a given microorganism or substances and not the other species. For example, chicken is resistant to Bacillus anthracis, which will affect a cow. Rats are resistant to Corynebacterium diphtheria. This thing will affect human being. So that's what we mean by species immunity. Then now let us look at characteristics of innate immunity. Some of them we have discussed above and I'll just mention. One of them is that they're present at birth. The other one is that they live with you throughout your life. Acquired immunity would come and go depending with the infection, but this one is constant, like your skin is constantly there, and it protects you from invading microorganisms. They are non-specific. They stop or destroy all foreign microorganisms or substances. They do not choose. We look at this. Then they have no memory, immunological memory. In acquired immunity, there is what we call immunological memory. In acquired immunity, if you are infected by a bacteria at one time, it will be destroyed. But some cells remain in the body which memorizes that bacteria. So that when it infects you another time, the reaction towards the bacteria is even stronger because these cells produce chemical against bacteria much faster and large quantities than before. That's what we call immunological memory. We'll look at it also in details later. Then it does not change with exposure or intensity. It does not change, the intensity does not change with exposure because exposure does not affect it. It's just there. For example, in acquired immunity, continuous exposure, as we have said there, increases the intensity of reaction against a foreign substance. Here, the intensity of reaction remains the same despite continuous exposure. Then it's due to genetic makeup, not exposure to foreign substance, because you are born with it. There's this function that it does, apart from destroying foreign organisms or particles entering the body. It also activates acquired immunity. We'll see that later. We have said it acts as the first line of defense, so that one we don't need to talk about again. So let's look at factors influencing innate immunity. They are age, nutritional status, and hormonal levels. So age, the very young people have a mature immunity. The old people, the immunity is already dying, fading away, sort of. So young people and old people are more vulnerable because the immunity is low. Those who are in between have stronger immunity. When most of these chemicals that are control or prevent or kill foreign substances in the body are proteins. So malnutrition lowers immunity. Malnutrition lowers immunity. Then there are some hormones in the body that if they are not there, then the immunity is also lowered. If the hormones are not there, then the immunity is lowered. For example, individuals suffering from diabetes mellitus have low immunity to some infection. So this disorder may affect hormonal level, and that affect immunity. So individuals with certain hormonal disorder become increasingly susceptible to infection. And let's look at mechanism of innate immunity. We said we have the physical barrier. So that's the very first line, as I mentioned. That's the very first line of protection of the body, because they simply block anything that want to enter the body. So they are the skin and the mucous membrane. So skin and mucous membrane, and they must be intact. When they are cut, then these foreign substances get into the body. So an intact skin has keratin on the surface. Keratin makes us add. Keratin is a type of protein that is found in even hair. So this keratin makes it hard for these substances or for a microorganism to enter into the body. It's also dry and have salt concentration. When we sweat, we produce a solution in the body which contains salt. This sweat leaves salt on the body. So salt and dryness inhibits growth or kills microorganisms on the surface. Then we have mucous membrane. Mucous membrane is found in the gut, respiratory tract, urinary tract, and reproductive tract. So they run the lumen of these body systems. So what do? They prevent entry of microorganisms into the body tissue. Like in the gut, they line the gut. So any bacteria or protozoa which want to enter may want to enter into the body, into the tissue, because the gut is actually outside the tissue, outside the body tissues. So they are prevented by the mucous membrane in the first place. Then mucous membrane also produce mucus, which is thick and hold particles or the microorganism. Mucus also produce substances which kill microorganisms, as we'll see later. But some of the mucous membrane have cilia, like in the respiratory tract. These cilia, together with mucus, trap the particles, and as the cilia beats, the particles are moved outside the body, maybe to the nostril, or they are coughed out and swallowed. When they are swallowed, they go to the gut and they are carried out. Then on this barrier, we have surface secretions. On the skin, we have sebaceous secretions and sweat. These things contain substances which can kill bacteria or fungi. So we say they are bactericidal because they kill bacteria, or fungicidal because they kill fungi. And they are mainly fatty acids. They have a low pH, which is not conducive for growth of this and kill them. Then nasal secretions and saliva also contain mucus. Mucus also, we have seen how it works. It blocks the viruses. Mucopolysaccharides or mucus blocks the viruses. Then we have tears. Tears contain the enzyme lysozyme, which also kill bacteria, mainly gram-negative bacteria. Then we have urine and tears. Tears was inside the eyes. Urine flushes out microorganisms which could climb the urinary tract. Then we have hydrochloric acid in the gut. The low pH kills bacteria and some other microorganisms. Human milk also contains antibacterial substances against bacteria, like lactoferrin and neuraminic acid. Then we have a third group of protection. This is called normal flora. Normal flora are a group of microorganisms which live in our body. They never cause disease, but what they do is protect our body. So we have a bacteria which live in our body but never cause disease. These are now called normal bacterial flora. They protect our body in two different ways. They compete with the pathogens, the microorganisms which cause disease. They compete for attachment to the surface of the cells. Microorganisms normally attach to the surface of the cells and feed on nutrients from the cells, or they attach to the surface of the cells and enter the cells and infect cells. So they attach to the cells on receptors on the surface, on protrusion known as receptors. So these normal or good bacteria compete with them for these receptors. Another thing, they compete with the pathogens for nutrition, but they are better competitors than normal flora, so they outcompete them and remove them. Another thing that this normal flora does, they produce chemicals which kill pathogens, like acid or hydrogen peroxide. Like this lactobacilli is a normal flora in the vagina, that's the birth canal. So it produces acids which kills fungi and other pathogenic bacteria. When you remove it, these things grow and you get irritations in the vagina. So when you take antibiotics, you'll get irritation in the vagina just because of that. Also, females are advised not to clean the birth canal. What I mean by, whenever you are bathing, don't push your hand under water inside the vagina. You are removing lactobacilli, and that exposes you to infection. And you will have irritations and discharge, which are not normal. And that is called bacterial vaginosis. Then we have the fourth way, that is humoral defense mechanism. Humoral immunity is immunity by the products of the immune cells or immune tissues. So this product produced kill bacteria or destroy foreign substance. One of the enzymes that we have encountered several is lysozymes. It is a proteolytic enzymes and is produced by phagocytic cells and most tissues. So they are found in saliva, tears, human milk, etc. They protect the body against gram-negative bacteria. Then we have a type of proteins known as basic proteins. Basic proteins also are antibacterial. They are antibacterial. They are also produced by macrophages and so on and so forth. Then we have what we call acute phase protein. Acute phase proteins are proteins which exist in the body at very low concentration. But due to infection, the concentration increases. Their main action is to activate complement system. Complement system are a group of bacteria that when activated kill pathogens. And they have so many other functions like activation of phagocytosis, activation of inflammation. So they also enhance immunity. So when complement are activated, they enhance immunity. They are proteins which stay in the body in inactive form, but when activated, they enhance immunity. They are activated during infection, as we learn more. Then the fifth mechanism is the interferon. Interferon are chemicals produced by our body cells. They are chemicals produced by eukaryotic cells. These are cells like the ones in our body, which are nucleated cells. So these cells mainly kill viruses. By inhibiting viral replication, they can also kill other body cells. So when a cell is not normal, then interferons will kill it. So these abnormal cells are cells infected by virus and cancer cells. So interferon destroy cancer cells and cells which are infected by virus. Then the interferon also stimulates what we call natural killer cells. These cells, if they are when stimulated, they will destroy other cells by producing proteins which kill other body cells which are infected like cancer cells or virus-infected cells. So then we go to complement proteins. I've talked about complement proteins, but these are a group of proteins in the body. They are around 20. They are inactive in the body, but infection activates them. So once they are activated, they form what we call a chain reaction known as enzyme cascade, where the product of one stage forms an enzyme for the second stage. And at the end of that, the complement enhance immunity like phagocytosis and destruction of various microorganisms by lysis and inflammation. So they enhance inflammation, stimulate inflammation, stimulate phagocytosis, and destroy microorganisms by lysis. We'll see that when we talk about complement. But they enhance or potentiate immunity when activated only. Then we have cellular innate immunity. This one is done by different cells. These are monocytes. Monocytes are phagocytes. So phagocytes engulf foreign microorganisms. Once they engulf them, they kill them. They destroy them using enzymes inside the body or using what we call reactive oxygens, which then destroy by oxidation once they are phagocytosed. The cells which can be phagocytosed are called prokaryotic cells, which I hope you've done in microbiology. Bacterial cells are much smaller than our body cells. That's why they engulf. So what about a case where we want to kill a parasite? or other body cells which are the same size as white blood cells. The white blood cells produces chemicals outside. These chemicals or enzymes then destroy these other cells, but they cannot engulf them because they are so big. That is called cell cytotoxicity. So there are cells which produce enzymes or proteins which kill other cells outside their body. They don't engulf them. That's what we call cell cytotoxicity. This is done by natural killer cells, as we have seen above, or T cytotoxic cells. So those cells are able to damage virus-infected cells or damage cancer cells. In the same way, eosinophil, these are a kind of white blood cells, also destroy parasites. Parasites are multicellular. They are made up of many cells. Eosinophil is just one cell. So it is much larger than eosinophil. It cannot engulf it. So a number of eosinophils come together, they produce chemicals or enzymes and pour them on the parasite and they kill the parasite. That is also cytotoxicity. But now by several of these eosinophils because parasite is so big. The next mechanism is inflammation. Inflammation is caused when a cell is damaged, like cut, or is infected by microorganism. This produces chemicals, as we'll see later, which activate the immune system. When the immune system is activated, we'll see later, different immune cells come to the infected or damaged region and clears it of the invading microorganism, or damaged cells in that area are cleared by other immune cells which comes inside there. They are phagocytes, cells which carry out cytotoxic effect, and the area is then cleared. Then high temperature also, like in inflammation brings high temperature, but also just some infection also will bring high temperature in the body. Our normal body temperature 37 degrees centigrade. So all the microorganisms which infect and reside in our body learn to live within 37 degrees centigrade. So if the temperature goes beyond that, that will inhibit their reproduction, growth, and even kill them. So at high temperature or fever, the microorganisms are then killed. Another thing that occurs during high temperature, that is, high temperature favors phagocytosis and the killing. High temperature favors phagocytosis and the killing of microorganisms which have been engulfed by reactive oxygen. So when the temperature goes high, like in fever, phagocytosis increases and production of reactive oxygen increases. So more microorganisms are destroyed. Then finally, the last mechanism, genetic factor. So individuals which are exposed to particular microorganism, we had seen this earlier, produce genes which make them protective against such microorganisms, so they become resistant to them. So that's another way in which innate immunity works. Thanks, and let's meet next time for acquired immunity.